Hi, my name is Jana Larson. I'm a professional genealogist. Bill and Gail first contacted me because they had visited a historic home owned by the Hollingsworth family. Bill wondered whether he was connected to the Hollingsworth scroll that they had purchased. It didn't take too long before we were able to match his family up with the family that was listed on the historic scroll. We've traced his family now back to a Valentine Hollingsworth who was living in Pennsylvania in 1632, I believe. Our next project was the Reisinger family. One of the first sources we discovered was a history of Indiana County, Pennsylvania, that said that the Reisingers descended from a Peter Reisinger who fought in the Revolutionary War. I told Bill then that he could apply for membership in the Sons of the American Revolution, and he was interested in doing that. In order to have membership in the Sons of the American Revolution, you have to be able to prove your descent in every generation back. The birth, the marriage, the death, and the relationship between the child and the parents. It wasn't too difficult to go back the first couple of generations because in the United States, censuses were taken every year since 1790. After 1850, all the members of the household appear on a census together, and in the more recent censuses, it will spell out relationships, whether they are husband and wife and sons and daughters. We use those primarily along with birth certificates and death certificates. The 1790 census was the first census taken after the Revolutionary War. Our country decided to have a democracy and base its Congress on population statistics. The representatives in Congress are based on the population of each state. So in order to calculate how many representatives there were going to be, they had to count how many people were in the United States. The very first census was taken in 1790, the war having ended in 1783, and they asked only 3 questions. How many people were in the household? Men above age 16. They wanted to know how many men were eligible to fight in wars, how many men there were under age 16, and how many females. As time went by, more and more questions were asked in the census, including how much property value you had, what occupations people followed, how many children a woman would have, what people died from, etc. The 1930 census, which is the most recent one available, having to do with privacy laws, has some 30 or 40 questions on it. We understand that the next census that will be coming out for 2010 has only 10 questions, and genealogists are not particularly happy about that because we use censuses all the time. It's a major source for research in the United States. Birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates have also been issued by the government, but starting only recently. This goes back to the Revolutionary War again. After the Revolutionary War, we decided as a country that we didn't want to do things the way that England had done, and powers like these were left up to the states, and the states just decided that they didn't want to do it. Pennsylvania, where Bill's ancestors came from, didn't start taking birth certificates and death certificates until about 1912. So what do you do before that time period? Well, a major source is deeds. People don't want to let their own property just go back to the state when they die. So they make deeds that spell out relationships, give their property to their children. Wills, the same way. In place of censuses, we use things like tax lists because people pay taxes every year. They don't usually spell out relationships, but now and then they do. While working our way back to Bill's revolutionary ancestor, we really got stuck in about 1820. This is a very difficult time period. I searched all of the deeds and records that I thought would pay off, but none of them did. But when I was in Salt Lake City, I decided to collect the last couple of deeds that existed, and I found one that was a bonanza. John Heinrich Reisinger was an old man. He owned a little bit of property, not a lot. He had a whole lot of children, and not enough to divide up the property and give it to everybody. So he wrote a deed selling the land really to a stranger, as far as we know, on a mortgage type basis. The mortgage said that the buyer would provide a living for John Heinrich Reisinger until he died. He would be paying regular payments to him, and then once he died, he was to start with the oldest child and pay each of them a particular sum of money until that limit was reached. And then in the deed, he listed all 18 of his children, including Bill's ancestor, Abraham Reisinger. From then on, we start in with church records. We were able to find some christenings that were to prove the relationship of father and son back in early York County, Pennsylvania, where the revolutionary ancestor was fighting, and even managed to trace that family back to Germany. Bill's Reisinger ancestors come from a little village called Nieder-Ingelheim in Mansbingen in the Rhineland-Pfalz of Germany, which is a place that is not too far from Frankfurt today. Okay.
Janet, thanks. That was great.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, I can't believe you remember all that.